Sometimes I come across an article and I'm just like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like this one,
Huh?
this article from Assay Genie about CD27.
Okay.
And it's basically this protein, right?
Right.
That's on our immune cells.
Right.
And it acts like a switch to fight cancer.
Interesting.
Scientists are figuring out how to flip the switch on.
Wow.
And it could revolutionize cancer treatment. So I figured, we gotta deep dive into this.
Yeah, it could be a real game changer. Instead of just treating the symptoms of cancer, we could actually, use the body's own defenses to eliminate it. That's really what this research is all about.
So what is it? What exactly is CD27? And why is it so important for fighting cancer?
Well, CD27 is a receptor. It's found on the surface of certain immune cells,
Okay.
primarily T cells. You can think of T cells as the soldiers of your immune system.
Got
They're
it.
constantly patrolling and getting rid of threats. But not all T cells are the same. We have cytotoxic T cells, which are also known as CD8 plus T cells, and these are the assassins. They're the ones that directly kill infected or cancerous cells. And then you have helper T cells, also known as CD4 plus T cells, and those are more like the orchestrators.
Oh, yeah.
They signal other cells to join the fight. And so CD27, what it does is it activates and amplifies the responses of both of these types of T cells.
So it's not just like a general boost to the immune system. It's really honing in on those T cells that are fighting the cancer.
That's exactly right.
That's super interesting. So that's where the switch analogy comes in, right?
Yeah, yeah. So CD27 it's like a power-up button on those T cells.
Okay.
And it's just waiting to be activated.
Uh-huh.
And what activates it is another protein called CD70. So when CD70 binds to CD27, it basically triggers all these signals within the T cell. And it's like flipping a switch, It unleashes this cancer-fighting potential. It's like giving those T cells a shot of adrenaline and a bunch of new weapons.
So CD70 is the key that unlocks the T cells' full potential.
Yeah.
It makes them more effective at killing those cancer cells.
Exactly.
So how are scientists actually using this to develop new treatments? How does this work?
Well, that's where the real innovation comes in. So researchers have developed these antibodies that actually mimic the action of CD70.
Oh, wow.
So instead of relying on the body's natural supply of CD70, which can be, pretty limited,
Yeah.
these antibodies can directly bind to CD27 on the T cells
Okay.
and activate them and boost their cancer-fighting abilities. And one of the most promising of these antibodies is called AT124-5.
Okay, so we're talking about antibodies, which are these proteins that our immune system naturally produces to fight off invaders. But in this case, scientists have created synthetic antibodies that specifically target the CD27.
Yeah.
Essentially mimicking the natural activation process.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that this AT124-5, it's shown some really, really impressive results in these preclinical studies.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, there was a study that was published in the journal Cancer Cell, and AT124-5 actually significantly inhibited tumor growth.
Wow.
And it prolonged survival in mice that had melanoma.
That's great.
So it's just one example, but it really highlights the potential of these anti-CD27 therapies in fighting cancer.
So not only does it have a strong scientific basis, but it's already showing results in early research.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are there other types of these antibodies being developed, or is AT124-5 the main player in this field?
Well, AT124-5 is definitely one of the furthest along.
Yeah.
And it's showing the most promise, but it's not the only one. There are others out there. There's varlalumab and utomilumab, and those are also being investigated in clinical trials. But each of these antibodies has its own unique characteristics and potential advantages. So it'll be interesting to see how they all compare in terms of, efficacy and safety.
So it's kind of like a race to develop the most effective one.
Yeah, I guess you could think about it that way.
But I imagine activating this CD27 on its own might not be enough to completely get rid of cancer.
You're right.
Cancer's a really formidable foe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Cancer cells they're really crafty.
Yeah.
They often find ways to kind of evade the attacks from the immune system.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole idea of combination therapy comes in.
Oh, okay.
So scientists are looking at ways to combine these anti-CD27 therapies with, other types of immunotherapy to really create a powerful attack, like a multi-pronged attack against cancer.
So it's instead of just one weapon. It's a whole arsenal
Exactly.
to fight it. What other therapies are they combining with the anti-CD27 treatments?
So one of the most promising combinations is with what's called immune checkpoint inhibitors. And those are things like anti-PD-1 and anti-CTLA-4 therapies. And basically what those do is they release the brakes on the immune system.
Oh.
Because you see, cancer cells will often exploit certain checkpoints to suppress the immune response.
Oh, interesting.
They're basically telling the immune system to stand down.
Wow.
But by blocking these checkpoints, what we can do is unleash the full force of the immune system against the cancer.
So it's like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
The anti-CD27 antibodies are activating and amplifying the T-cell response, and then the checkpoint inhibitors are removing the brakes.
Exactly.
So that those, the super T-cells can just go and attack.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that combining these therapies, though, is not without its challenges, though, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely complex. Combining therapies always comes with some complexities, and one of the big challenges is figuring out, the optimal dose.
Okay.
And the timing for each therapy. Yeah.
Because if there's too much activation, that can actually lead to immune-related adverse events.
Oh.
Where the immune system starts attacking healthy tissues.
Oh, wow.
So we don't want that.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, if there's too little activation, it might not be enough to actually control the cancer. Mm-hmm. So it's this really delicate balancing act.
It's got to be that sweet spot where it's working, but it's not causing harm.
Right.
So besides the dosage and the timing, what other challenges are there when they're combining therapies?
Well, another big one is understanding how they interact with each other.
Okay.
Because each therapy is it's targeting a different part of the immune system.
Uh-huh.
And so their combined effects can be really complex and sometimes unpredictable. So researchers are working to untangle these interactions.
Yeah.
To try to develop more effective and safer combination strategies. So it seems like, one of the big things here is just the complexity of the immune system itself.
It is, yeah.
It's like trying to, work with an orchestra with millions of musicians.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
That are all playing different instruments. How do they even begin to understand all of that?
Well, it's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And it really requires a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
So we're talking about combining cutting-edge technologies and sophisticated computational models, and maybe most importantly, collaboration.
Oh, okay.
Having scientists from different disciplines work together.
So it's not just immunologists, just working by themselves.
No, not at all.
It's really like a team effort.
It is, yeah. It's about bringing together all those experts from all those different fields to really tackle this challenge, from different angles.
And that's what's happening with CD27 research.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a team effort. That's really cool. So with all this talk about complexity and challenges, for the listener, why should they care about this? What does this all mean for them?
Well, that's a great question. And here's why they should care. The CD27 research, it really represents a fundamental shift in cancer treatment.
Okay.
Because instead of just relying on things like toxic chemotherapy or radiation, which often have, really bad side effects, we're talking about, actually harnessing the power of the immune system,
right?
The body's natural defense, to fight cancer.
Yeah.
And that's not just theoretical anymore.
Yeah.
It's already showing these promising results in clinical trials.
So it's not just like some pie in the sky idea. It's a real thing.
It is.
That's what makes this so exciting.
Yeah.
It's not just some abstract science. It's something that could really revolutionize cancer treatment and give hope to so many people.
Exactly. And while there are challenges,
the
progress that's being made is truly remarkable. We're seeing a whole new era of cancer immunotherapy.
That's great.
And the possibilities are really exciting.
So we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We learned about CD27, this protein that acts like a switch on our immune cells, those T cells that are fighting cancer.
Right.
We talked about how scientists are developing these antibodies, like AT124 to 5, to mimic the activation of CD27.
Yeah.
And how combining these antibodies with other immunotherapies, could really create a powerful attack.
Exactly.
Against cancer. We also touched on the complexity of the immune system
Right.
and the challenges that researchers face in understanding it and manipulating this.
Yeah. It's a complex system.
It is.
Yeah.
But the progress in CD27 research is encouraging.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and it's really like a glimpse into the future where cancer treatment is more personalized and less toxic. So as we move to the second part of this deep dive, we'll go even deeper
Oh, yeah, we'll go a little deeper.
into this world of CD27 research, exploring the benefits and the challenges in more detail. Stay tuned because things are about to get even more fascinating.
Absolutely. One of the really fascinating things about the CD27 research is it's not just about like activating the immune system,
Right.
It's also about fine-tuning it,
Oh, okay.
like dialing it up or down as needed.
That's interesting.
Like almost like a volume knob for your immune response.
Huh. That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been talking about how activating it, can boost the immune system to fight cancer.
Great.
Are there times when you'd actually want to turn it down?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So think about autoimmune diseases where the immune system's kind of going haywire.
Yeah.
And it's attacking the body's own tissues. In those cases, it's
It's too much.
it's too much. You don't want to activate it more.
Right.
You want to find a way to kind of dampen it down.
Yeah. So instead of like adding fuel to the fire, you're trying to like
Exactly.
put it out.
Yeah, put out the fire.
That's really interesting.
And that's where blocking CD27 signaling could be really helpful.
Oh, okay.
So by inhibiting CD27, you could potentially, reduce the activity of those immune cells that are causing the problem.
So it's almost like a double-edged sword in a way.
Yeah.
You can
It can go both ways.
amp it up or bring it down.
It all depends on what you're trying to treat.
How do they control that? Like how do they decide when to activate and when to block it?
That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
It really comes down to understanding the specifics of the disease. In cancer where the immune system needs a boost,
Right.
that's when you'd want to activate CD27.
Okay.
But in autoimmune diseases where it's already overactive,
Yeah.
blocking it might be the better approach.
That makes sense.
It's all about context.
So, I mean, we've been talking about cancer and autoimmune diseases.
Okay.
Are there other areas where CD27 could be useful?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
One area that's getting a lot of attention is organ transplantation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So when someone gets a new organ,
Right.
their immune system often sees it as foreign.
Yeah.
And it tries to attack it.
Right, like it's doing its job.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's trying to protect the body, but
It's a good thing.
right, it's a good thing in this case.
Yeah.
It's trying to reject it.
So where does CD27 come in?
Well, researchers are looking at ways to use CD27 blockade
Okay.
to actually prevent that rejection from happening.
Oh, wow.
So the idea is if you can inhibit CD27 signaling, right?
You could maybe suppress the immune response against that organ
Okay.
without completely shutting down the whole immune system.
So it's more targeted.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yep.
a more targeted approach.
So less side effects potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really cool stuff.
But I mean, with anything new, there's always potential risks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you're right.
What are some of the concerns?
Well, one of the biggest concerns with any kind of immune manipulation, whether you're activating or inhibiting,
Right.
is that you could have these off-target effects.
So like you're trying to hit the bullseye,
Yeah.
but you might
Might miss.
hit something else
Exactly.
and cause unintended consequences.
Yeah, the immune systems, it's really intricate.
Yeah.
And even small changes can have these ripple effects
Wow.
throughout the body. So
So it's really important to
it's really important to be cautious
yeah.
and do the research, understand the risks.
Before, these therapies are widely available.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what's next for CD27 research? Like where do we go from here?
Oh, that's a fun question.
Yeah.
I think we're just scratching the surface
Okay.
of what CD27 can do as we learn more about it
Yeah.
and develop better tools to manipulate it.
Right.
I mean, the possibilities are endless.
It's like discovering a new continent.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we're just starting to explore.
Exactly. And who knows what we'll find. I
Yeah.
mean, we could find new therapeutic applications for CD27
Okay.
that could help us treat, not just cancer and autoimmune diseases, but, a whole range of other conditions.
So we're really starting to see the immune system as kind of a central player
Yeah,
in all these different diseases.
absolutely.
And CD27 is like this key
It's like a master kit.
to unlocking these new treatments.
Exactly.
So what are some of the cutting edge areas of research right now?
Well, one area that's really hot right now
Yeah.
is personalized medicine.
Oh, bro.
So, researchers are trying to find these biomarkers
Right.
that can predict which patients are going to respond best to these anti-CD27 therapies
Okay.
and who might be at risk for side effects.
So it's about tailoring the treatment to
Exactly.
the individual.
Personalized medicine.
Wow.
Yeah, so by understanding, the specific characteristics of a patient's immune system and their tumor,
Okay.
we can hopefully come up with better treatment strategies.
So we're really moving towards a future where treatment is truly like customized.
That's the goal.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So personalized medicine, what else?
Another really exciting area is combining CD27 activation with CAR T-cell therapy.
Oh yeah, CAR T-cell therapy. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
But just to remind our listener, how does that work?
Sure. So CAR T-cell therapy it's this really amazing approach where they take a patient's own T-cells from their blood and they genetically engineer them
Wow.
to recognize and attack cancer cells better.
Oh.
So it's almost like giving those T-cells a special set of goggles that help them see the cancer cells better.
So they can target them more effectively.
Exactly.
It's like creating a personalized army of super soldiers.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That's really cool.
And what's really neat is that now researchers are looking at ways to combine CD27 activation with auto T-cell therapy.
Oh, wow.
So it's like giving those already supercharged T-cells an extra boost.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And are they seeing results with that?
Yeah, the early results are really promising. So
Okay.
in some of these preclinical studies, combining those two approaches has led to better tumor control
Okay.
and even better survival rates in animal models.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff.
But I mean, I imagine there are challenges with this too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What are some of those?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is just scaling up the production.
Okay.
So CAR T-cell therapy, it's a very personalized approach.
Yeah.
And actually manufacturing these engineered cells is really complex.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
So it's not just the science.
It's not just the science.
It's the logistics of it all.
Exactly. It's the logistics, the infrastructure, making sure that these therapies are accessible
Yeah.
to patients.
And then there's, all the regulatory hurdles too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Bringing any new therapy to market takes a long time.
Yeah.
It's a really rigorous process. You have to make sure it's safe and effective.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of steps involved.
So it's like the science might be moving really quickly,
Right.
but then there's all these other things.
Yeah, it's like a whole other set of challenges
Yeah.
to get these therapies to the people who need them.
Right. That makes sense.
But, despite all that, I'm really optimistic about the future of CD27 research.
Yeah.
I think it has the potential to really change the way we treat cancer
Yeah.
and other diseases.
It's amazing how far we've come in understanding the immune system.
It is.
And being able to
That's incredible.
harness it, for good.
Yeah.
But with all this talk about manipulating it,
Yeah.
are there ethical considerations here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really important point.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah.
As we develop these tools to manipulate the immune system,
Right.
we need to be really careful
Yeah.
about the potential ethical implications.
What are some of those concerns?
Well, one of the big ones is just the potential for unintended consequences.
Okay.
We've talked about how complex the immune system is
Yeah.
and how even small changes can have these ripple effects.
Mhm.
So we need to be really cautious about, messing with a system that we don't fully understand.
Right.
We always have to put patient safety first.
Yeah, it's like we're tinkering with a very delicate ecosystem,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
and we don't want to mess up the balance.
Exactly.
And as these therapies become more sophisticated and more personalized,
Right.
I imagine the ethical considerations get even more complex.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, imagine like using someone's genetic information to
To personalize their therapy. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a whole other level.
yeah. So the more we learn, the more
Right.
we have to think about.
Yeah. And the more careful we have to be.
Okay.
We need to make sure that we're using this knowledge responsibly
Yeah.
and ethically, and always, always putting the patient first.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about the potential of CD27 blockade in autoimmune diseases
Right.
and organ transplantation. And we went into like the world of personalized medicine and CAR T-cell therapy.
Yeah, those are some really exciting areas.
It is. And we touched on those ethical considerations.
Yeah, it's important to think about those things.
As we move to the final part of this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
Okay.
So if we can harness the power of CD27
Right.
to change the immune system in these amazing ways,
Yeah.
what other seemingly impossible challenges might we be able to overcome in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, it really gets you thinking.
It does.
You know, if we can like fine-tune the immune system to fight things like cancer and autoimmune diseases,
Right.
what's next? You know, could we target like the underlying causes of aging?
Wow.
Could we develop, personalized vaccines that give you lifelong immunity
That would be
for
amazing.
all sorts of infections? The possibilities are really incredible.
It really is like a whole new world
It is.
of possibilities, where the immune system is like our biggest weapon.
Our best ally
Yeah.
against disease.
But as we go further, into this,
Mm.
I think it's good to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
We talk about the ethical considerations.
Right.
What are some of the things that we need to think about, to make sure these technologies are used responsibly?
Well, I think one of the most important things is transparency.
Oh,
Making sure that all the research findings, the clinical trial data, any potential risks, that all that's communicated to the public so that people can make informed decisions.
So it's not just about the science.
It's not just about the science, it's about communication
Right.
and engaging with the public.
What else?
Regulation, I think, is another really important one.
Okay.
Having those clear guidelines and oversight to make sure that these technologies are being used safely and ethically.
Right. So that includes things like testing and making sure people understand what they're
Informed consent, yeah.
consenting to and monitoring for side effects.
Exactly, yeah.
So it really sounds like a team effort.
It is, it is.
You got the scientists, you've got the ethicists, you've got the policymakers.
And the public. Everyone needs to be involved.
To figure this out.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
But it's one that we need to address.
This has been a really, really interesting deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much about the immune system and just how complex it is.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And how important CD27 is.
It really is a key player.
It is.
In the immune system.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
I think the main thing to remember is that the immune system is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And we're only just beginning to tap into its potential.
It's true.
And CD27 research is showing us what's possible.
It is.
It's giving us hope for better treatments.
Right.
For so many diseases.
That are less toxic and more personalized.
Exactly.
It's really amazing.
It's a really exciting time to be in this field.
It is. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I love talking about this stuff.
It's fascinating.
Hopefully, it's sparked some curiosity in our listeners.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Into the world of CD27.
Absolutely.
And the future of immune manipulation. We hope you found it as interesting as we did.
We did.
And until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
I'm healthy.
And stay healthy.